Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. Ramadan Kareem to all of you. And I know those of you who are fasting, it's a difficult time of the day. So we appreciate you coming here and making this very important contribution to our inquiry. You all mentioned dictatorial governments, and I get that, and it's noted here. But I just want to sort of set that aside for a second, because you all talked about democracy as well, and how political Islam is going to adopt or adapt to the 21st century. Part of that democracy is not just the ballot box, it's institutions, it's an independent judiciary. And I put it to you that the problem you have, really both in Tunisia and in Egypt, is that civil liberties, and I would say, and equality, fall foul sometimes of Sharia law. And because the judicial system of Islam is Sharia law, you have problems with that. And Nahda had when they tried to change the constitution, where women were not equal to men. And I think the Tunisian people pushed back, and quite rightly, you're being pragmatic now and trying to sort of navigate a route through that. But in Egypt, you alienated half of your people because of clearly Sharia law hurting maybe people who happen to be gay, or people who are committed atheists and who may want to organize other atheists in that way. So the difficulty for you is actually Sharia law you cannot change, and it jars against those institutions that protect civil liberties and equality. And no matter, of course, put aside dictatorships, but when you took power in Egypt, you alienated half of your people. What happened next, we've discussed. I really just want to get your take on, it's almost impossible to deal with that aspect of political Islam unless you denounce Sharia law. So would you denounce it and move away from it to try and protect the rights? Democracy is judged by how it protects its minorities, not just the will. Many of you talked about the people. The people are not all the same.
Take my first
of course.
John. I completely agree with what you said.
So you're denouncing Sharia law?
Well, I'll tell you, except that what you said, Sharia law cannot change. This is not true, actually. What is Sharia? Sharia is interpretations.
So how does it interpret looking after gay people?
So Sharia law can be interpreted and can be changed, and has been changed all the time throughout history.
Right.
So the problem is what is Sharia? There is no clear definition of what we mean by Sharia law. And this is why the Nahda party, we had elections in 2011, and the new Constituent Assembly started in 2012, beginning of 2012. Within 2 months, February and March, there were discussions in Tunisia about whether we're going to include Sharia law in the constitution as one of the sources, not the only source, but one of the sources of legislation in the constitution. Within the Nahda party, there were about 15 meetings of the Shura Council, which is elected body of 150 people from all over the country. They met almost weekly for 2 months to discuss this point. And then they voted with 80%. It's not even close, with 80% not to include Sharia in the constitution, with 80%. And this was 2 months into the process. There was nothing there was no pressure from the street or anything like that from the beginning.
Well, there was pressure during the constitution.
No, the constitution hasn't, we were starting the process. There was no, I'm saying there was pressure later.
Yes.
But this is from the beginning. Nahda took a position. We're not going to require or insist or demand that Sharia be mentioned at all in the constitution. There is one clause, the first clause in the old constitution, which says that Tunisia is a republic whose language is Arabic and whose religion is Islam. And they said that is enough. That's all we need. We don't need Sharia in the constitution because Sharia can be misinterpreted. We certainly don't want the Sharia of the Taliban or of Al-Qaeda or of Daesh. If that is what they mean by Sharia, then we certainly don't want that. So, no, in fact, Sharia in Arabic, you probably know, means rule of law. That's all it means. And Sharia can be interpreted and has been interpreted, and we need a new Sharia for the 21st century. We reject the old interpretations. Those were good interpretations for their times, but their times were 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, that's what about Mr. Commentary on that.